Hi, I'm Nico,
I'm James.
and we are both working with Coasys. That is a non-profit organization working on the infrastructure for global scale collective intelligence for global coordination. And we are looking into the structures and dynamics of living systems to build a living semantic web and something that we think can be a real alternative to monolithic super intelligence, something that connects us all and can be a counterweight and safe path um, to super intelligence. And so we are looking at the deep problems with systems, and we believe that a fundamental tension with all, well, human social systems, but also technological systems, is the tension between coherence and sovereignty. So solutions tend to either, and it's hard to get them into balance. And so if we go towards coherence, we are sacrificing the sovereignty of the individual in order to have us all in lockstep and build systems that scale, which ultimately end up in a monoculture that can't track all the differences and values of individuals. And on the other side, if we lean too much into sovereignty and freedom of the individual, well, we have that, but we're lacking the coherence. And the problem is that either will lose if they don't integrate the other. So sovereign systems, if they don't enable coherence, they will be outcompeted by scalable systems that are monocultures. But if we think about that and drive that to its extreme, then it will also lose coherence because missing the input and the freedom of individuals will make it brittle and it will ultimately also collapse.
So, as Nico was saying, this is a fundamental tension that manifests in all different types of systems at different scales. But in this presentation, we want to focus in on particularly three layers that we're attempting to provide solutions for. So, to start with, you can see here this dichotomy at the layer of data, where we're often stuck with these vast centralized databases that we have very little control over, or we can pick to use other innovations, but then we lose the interoperability across those different experiments. At the interface layer, we have a similar problem where we basically are stuck with one big UI that's designed by the platform owners and forced on all different communities, or we can splinter out into different apps, but then we lose the interoperability because they're not compatible. And then the same with the value layer, where we have these widely used currencies, but that are very decoupled from local values in communities. Or we can pick, local values in communities, but then again, we lose that ability to translate across those different value systems.
Yeah, and what we also see is that what actually happens, and it's part of the history of the internet, which started as a very decentralized and free open space, but kind of got captured with the Web 2 phase and companies coming in and collapsing these three layers into one thing, one database with one interface connected to one extractive value system. And these just grow and scale, and it's hard for the other innovations to actually pick up. Um, and now we are entering, or we are already very much in the age of AI. And the interesting thing to see or to name here is that AI accelerates both extremes. So we could well picture, and many people are concerned about centralization of AI and power to an extreme where an AI or humans running the AI could control and enslave us all. But at the same time, AI also gives so much power to the individual that um, many people would be able to use local AI or other AI systems to create godlike tools and, for instance, create a virus that might kill us all as well. So not solving this tension in the age of AI is a real problem. Which means that the big question that we're looking at and we think that humanity is facing right now is how do we cohere at scale without losing sovereignty? So, and answering this question is what we will do in the rest of this presentation and what we think our work is doing as well. So first, an observation that at small scale systems, there seems to be a natural balance that, well, evolution has given us that humans can do. So in tribes or families or small teams, every small group where there is trust between people and where these people are in a shared feedback loop with the world, we have the capacity to feel the whole, to feel the space and be connected to the interest of us as a group, which also then results in us being able to adapt as a group. And so this leads us to a crucial concept that we have given a name, social DNA, which is a core piece of our solution and something that we will go through in the next slides. So social DNA is our term for the interaction patterns that form a group. That in these small groups, we can feel it. We have an understanding of the social system, of the expectations in that system, and we can go, to different systems, and we know, okay, here I'm expected to do this or show this part of me, and here I'm doing something else. And so there is something intrinsic to the group that describes the group, and that's the interaction patterns in it, and that's what we call social DNA.
So the pattern that we're bringing to these different layers of the stack that we're trying to find solutions for is this approach of introducing a meta-ontology. So a way of being able to retain the flexibility to express all different types of diversity, but having a unity in how that is actually expressed, like a specific language that's able to create that unity as well as enabling that diversity. So some basic examples just to illustrate this is we've already seen cases of this in the history of the web. For example, HTML is a very expressive language for defining UIs, but it's consistently used across all different websites that are built today. And similarly with ORMs, by kind of moving up a layer of abstraction, it's possible to define data structures without being tied to a particular database. But these are quite specific implementations, and we feel that this move is something that should be done in a more broad sense for all of the different types of social DNA that a community might want to express. So kind of tying this back to what we were saying earlier, what this is not doing is providing one social DNA for all communities, nor is it allowing that diversity of social DNA, but without the ability to communicate and translate across that diversity. But it's introducing a single substrate at each of these layers that allows that full expressivity of diversity whilst retaining a unity between them.
So the spanning layer is the connection of the spanning layer is an important aspect of what we're talking about. And if we zoom into that, there's a concept that is even at the core of that, and that is being able to translate from something that's inside of a particular container to the outside, so that we can keep sovereignty in the inside, which means that the users in it can express themselves in different ways. They're not constrained. But social DNA is like a pattern matching that can understand, oh, so there's a certain dance that people have danced and they went through a certain flow, and that means something. That's a signal that can be tracked. So, and that can be used technologically so that we detect that, and that creates an output of the group, a cohered group action. And that fundamental principle of using social DNA to cross a membrane from inside to outside is what we're applying to 3 different layers of our stack. And that's what we will show next. The core aspect of, and the technology we have been building for about 6 years now is called Atom. It is a technological spanning layer, a protocol network spanning layer. So, and there are two parts of it. One is more focused on the sovereignty of the individual, and the other one is creating the coherence of groups. So we have a few terms that Adam defines, um, namely languages, agents, and perspectives on the lower level. Languages is our terms for the different already existing protocol and networks. So as a human, I can speak email, I can speak WhatsApp, I can speak Bitcoin with other humans. That's why we call it language. And Atom is a runtime and networking layer that allows all these existing centralized and peer-to-peer technologies to be wrapped with a pluggable and JavaScript, ECMAScript-based wrapper. So it can be included in the spanning layer. And then perspectives are these subjective knowledge graphs that run inside Atom, where I can create associations between these. I can say this X post and this email and this Bitcoin transaction means something specific to me. And I'm free in expressing any connections I want. So now to cohere this, we have neighborhoods, which are basically shared perspectives, where all the people inside of that neighborhood, they have a local perspective that represents it. And if they change that perspective, that gets synced to everyone else. So we have a shared malleable space where everyone can do whatever they want and the others see it. So now to cohere it, we use social DNA um, to pattern match. And to be very pragmatic here, we use that already for data types so that we can define posts and comments and likes, similar to what the semantic web is doing in terms of triples in this graph, with a important difference here to the semantic web. It's agent-centric, which means that every link is signed, is cryptographically signed, so we can actually track the provenance of the links. But we can cohere all the variants that people will add to a neighborhood in order to find out when the group acts as a whole. And that is what we call a social organism, a group that is basically isomorphic to the agent, so it can be treated as an agent again, so we can stack it together and we can treat a group as a whole without having to force a particular way of governance, decision making, or types or apps, or even forcing the networks on which these run. That's what spanning layer means technologically and what we have been working on mostly for the past years. And that unlocks the other things we are talking about next.
So we is the interface spanning layer. And I guess to explain this, I would start by identifying two of the core tensions and friction points that people face with the way interfaces and front-end design is currently being used and built. So one is the user-facing problem. So users are basically locked into very rigid interfaces that they can't adapt and change to meet their specific needs or their community's needs as they change over time. So they basically either have to accept what is designed by the platform owners, or they can split and fragment to using other tools, but then they lose the data that they had on the previous tool, and the information can't interoperate across those different applications well. And then on the other side, we have the developer problem. So for a developer who has an idea for a cool new tool, right now, basically the path to adoption for that idea is that they have to build a completely new application. So as well as developing the unique, novel innovation that they're interested in, there's a lot of infrastructure that's necessary for them to build to get that in place. And then once they have that application, then they're also locked into competition amongst others who are also working on innovations, even when those different innovations might actually be compatible, just because of the fact that they're having to release it as a separate application, means that, yeah, we get competition instead of collaboration on that side. So what we is introducing is this meta ontology for interface design. So the idea is that we have this templating system, which is kind of like a blueprint, a high level abstract blueprint that defines a user interface that's easy for AI to read and adapt. and also safe to share and can re-render live without recompiling. And then that is paired with an open module marketplace where developers can contribute modules of various different types and levels of complexity, all the way from very basic primitive components up to complex widgets, full templates, themes, and content block types, and everything that you would need to then assemble an interesting interface. And what this does now is it solves these two tensions. It makes it possible for users and communities to flexibly reorganize interfaces to match whatever their needs are. And they can do that with AI. So they don't need to be a developer. They can just speak with the AI, and the AI can then assemble one of these template blueprints to fit together the modules that they want in the particular layout that they're interested in. And it's also easy for them to share and remix stuff that their friends or other communities have made. So it creates a very adaptable, flexible environment for interface generation. And then for developers, it means that rather than having to build a full application, they can focus in on the tools or the innovations that they're particularly interested in and release those as modules into this marketplace. And then instead of having to compete over against other apps and trying to fight for user adoption, they can just instantly make their innovation available to all the different communities in the ecosystem. And communities can then try that out. And if they like it, they can give it a good rating, and it can spread and gain adoption flexibly. So it really helps developers to focus in on what they're particularly interested in, not have to rebuild all of the other tooling and all of these duplicated efforts that we currently see, and not have to worry so much about user adoption. They just share it to the marketplace, and it's available to everyone.
So, and what we have seen so far is applying this idea of social DNA. First of all, building the network infrastructure where we can define it and have it be its own thing, the interaction pattern. And with we now also get the UI for it, so that still people are free to just define what is it they value, what are the interaction patterns they think are valuable. So, and with Synergy, we now have the third layer, which is tracking that value. So if I use a system, then there must be some value for me. And if I'm sharing data with others, there's also value for them. And we believe that it's really important for the system in order to actually come true to the aspiration we have with it, to provide a way to track value that doesn't resort back to just using the fiat money that we have, because that will then again eradicate the sovereignty and the input of different value systems. So what with Synergy we want to enable is that people can have different value systems connected to their social DNA in their local groups, and the spanning layer can translate the value also both ways. And so the way it starts here, it starts with very local currencies, and this is based on the grassroots currencies idea by Ehud Shapiro, which basically means that every user has their own currency, which they can use however they want. So it's a yin currency in the way Bernard Lietier was talking about yin and yang currencies. Yang currencies being the fiat currencies we know, centralized, minted, scarce, and they get more value by hoarding them. And then there are yin currencies, which are kind of the opposite. They are abundant and they are minted in a decentralized way, and they have value through the flow. And we have yin currencies also in most of the apps we're using. It's signals like likes and upvotes, and feedbacks and ratings. So they have a value, and that's why we use them. And so what we don't want to have happen is what, for instance, if you look at Web2, Facebook, and social network, these systems use these yin currencies, our likes and where we click and who we follow, and they have a way to use AI to understand them and extract value off of it, create personal profiles, and so on. And so with Synergy, we want to do something similar, but in a decentralized and sovereign way. And how this works is that we start with the grassroots currencies the way Shapiro defined them. So I have my own token. I can mint as many as I want. But there's one important rule baked in, the redemption rule. It means that every token is like an IOU. If you hold a Nico token, you can come back to me and use the token to redeem it against anything else I'm holding. So which means I have to think about how I use my tokens. If I just give them out freely, then I'm in danger of people using them to grab my other tokens. But then why would I use them in the first place? And who would even accept them? The way Shapiro is talking about it is that if you trust someone, if you trust me, then you might take my token because it's really like an agreement that you will get something back in the future from me. So now we're using his ideas and we combine those with social DNA and with membranes, such that if a community has defined a flow, say, if we're exchanging music tracks and we want to find out which one we like and we want to give out a great playlist as a group, might have a very simple or complicated mechanism where we give likes and vote on something. We could do that without any usage of currencies. But now synergy baked into our stack means that people can charge up their signals with their own tokens. And together with other ones doing the same thing, they can lock their tokens in a vault of our group, of our neighborhood, of our organism, and exchange it for a token that represents that group. It's the next Yang token, and our Yin tokens are exchanged for it. Now, why would I do it? Because there are other groups, and maybe there are other people who don't know me, they don't trust me, they wouldn't accept my Yin token, but maybe they know about our group and they have heard about that our tracks are really good. And maybe there's a group who is doing parties, ecstatic dance parties, for instance, and they need good tracks. So they use our group in their group, in their neighborhood. They also have their own Yang token, which they might use for different purposes, for paying at an event or buying a ticket or whatever. And they also have a social DNA. And now what can happen is that I start with my Yin tokens, I go through the process with my people, I up level my Yin to our Yang in connection with our output. And now I can carry it over, the output with the token, to this next group, which takes it as an input. And I can do the next level up of this Yang token with that group token. And which each step, this token becomes, well, has more area and more people backing it up. So it becomes more objective, it becomes more scalable and more coherent because it represents the integration of our different perspectives and our different value systems. So there's another aspect, the redemption, which can happen transitively. If I have a group token, I can also go back to the group and basically redeem the tokens the group has. And if the group has the lower level group tokens, I can do that again and redeem the Yin tokens. And now I have a claim against the people who put something in. So, which means that by leveling up my Yin token, I'm also putting skin in the game. And to the degree that the value that we are providing actually doesn't turn out to be of value in the end, there is a calibration mechanism. And we believe that this is something that can be connected to active inference and to free energy minimization, so that this actually is like a global brain with neurons, connecting and integrating the level that came before of it. And we have an article which is currently in draft, but we believe there are some important ideas in here that we started formalizing it mathematically and also started doing some simulations. And we really would like to get peer review on it. And yeah, we definitely see that this is a way for different value systems to be integrated and aligned and calibrated against each other.
So here you can see in this slide our attempt to visualize what happens when you put all of these different pieces together. So if you remember right at the start of the presentation, we were talking about these two polarities, coherence by crushing out diversity and enforcing a rigid monoculture, or alternatively, retaining people's sovereignty and diversity, but not being able to cohere at scale. But we think that by finding that balance between those polarities through the mechanisms that we've discussed, these meta ontologies at the level of atom and data, in we with interfaces and with value and synergy, we can allow a healthy living system to evolve, a holonic system that's fractal and can work at all different scales. And it's important to say that this is not something that we envision, building at the top layer and then enforcing, but it's something that can grow from the bottom up. So it can start with small communities that can achieve coherence at that level, and then they can gradually come together into larger wholes. And ultimately, that process could lead to global scale holarchy.
I just wanna add the important difference between hierarchy and holarchy, that every piece is a holon, is sovereign, and that the process I just described before with synergy allows a self-organization and self-calibration of this holarchy. But it doesn't exist yet. So we have to talk about the growing of that holarchy. And we have found an interesting way to connect it to the synergy economic system and also to the need to fund the whole project. So there is a special currency called Synergy Fuel, which we also have been pre-selling, starting to pre-sell it 3 years ago, and that we are now offering again to fund the system without selling equity because it's a non-profit DAO and everything is open source. So Synergy Fuel is a currency that is part of this economic system called Synergy with a special role. I talked about the redemption. So my personal currency can be redeemed against my vote, and then the next level hold-on currency can be redeemed against its vote, and so on and so on. And I also hinted towards the transitive redemption. Now, if you have these people here taking part in this hold-on and putting in their yin token to mint the next level yang token, and then you have these three hold-ons who put in their yang token as the yin for this level and mint the next one. Now, if I would have a yang token here, I can redeem against its vote, unlocking the tokens of these three. I can select one of those. And then if I have it, I can go down and basically walk down the holarchy to redeem the low-level hold-ons. If there was a complete holarchy and a currency for the top-level hold-on, I could use that transitively to redeem any of the other yin tokens, just picking the right path through the holarchy. Synergy Fuel is the stand-in for that top-level hold-on and its currency. And so we kind of jump over or mimic the not existent upper part of the holarchy by giving Synergy Fuel redemption against all the votes. So I can use Synergy Fuel to redeem against your personal vote and against an organ vote. And in that sense, it has an objective value. Now there is a question, if I have Synergy Fuel, why would I do it? Because I'm kind of trading down my Synergy Fuel unit that I can use in all places against your yin token. I would need to have a reason for it. But it can also just be, for starters, it can be used as just a generic currency for tipping, for anything. But the interesting characteristic of Synergy Fuel is that it can be used to irrigate the growth of the holarchy. I can charge up a hold-on with Synergy Fuel and creating a beacon for others because they might want to get Synergy Fuel. So they have now an incentive to find a way to take part in social DNAs that lead up to that hold-on in order to trade their yin token, of which they have, as many as they want. But by going through these integrations and playing the integration game with others and doing sense making, they can unlock Synergy Fuel. So Synergy Fuel is what we use, what we want to use ourselves as Coasys to steer the growth of the holocene. There might be important things we want to build out first, like social DNAs that prove personhood, so we can differentiate bots against people, and other important system DNAs and holons that need to be there. So we will irrigate those first. And a portion of Synergy Fuel we want to sell in order to fund the project. And zooming out a bit, so yeah, Adam, we have been working on that for 6 years now, and a lot of R&D in the beginning. And we are approaching a beta release of the network. So basically having the bootstrap networks that compose the spanning layer itself, so in which agent user IDs and languages can be shared and posted and neighborhoods. For that, we need to have a stable peer-to-peer network. That's why so far we called it alpha. And with that, that's happening soon. We will spawn an Atom beta network and invite people to build apps and languages. Flux, the app that we use to build out Atom, is working well. We use it daily for our team calls and transcripts with our bots in it. And so we have been working on We now for, James, for about 6 months or so, I think.
Yeah, roughly, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
go ahead.
lots of the foundations are in place now. A lot of it is working. I think one of the main remaining things is to get the module marketplace set up so it's easy for people to then come in and add their contributions. But we have basically a full working stack there. So very excited to get that out soon and invite people to start experimenting with it.
Yeah, and with Synergy, we just in this year we had an important unlock by combining these ideas, Shapiro with social DNA, and a few other details that we haven't gotten into, but it's all described in the white paper. So we want to get some peer review, scientific peer review on it, and also do some simulations. And once that's done, we want to implement it fairly soon. And I also want to say that we are just three humans. Josh, our third one, is in Australia and sleeping right now. But we also have three AI agents, OpenClaw agents. We are making aggressive use of agentic coding, but also these agents. So you can see them in our GitHub. They have grown to be really valuable. And the speed with which we can build stuff is, yeah, honestly, just amazing right now. And the horizon of what we can build with just a couple of people has expanded a lot in this year for us. Yeah, we're really eager to get these pieces into place, to get Atom Beta out and finish We and introduce Synergy. And so as a last zoom out and horizon, coming back to the intro, what we think what we're doing here is building a global brain. So inspired by living systems and with the Synergy value spanning layer, even having something that resembles actually the processes of free energy minimization and active inference, but in a social way. And what we think what this does is by aligning the interest of an individual with the interest of the whole, having incentive landscapes that basically translate what the whole needs to the local sovereign space and vice versa. It's not just amazing for us humans to use it, but it also puts AI agents in the right frame. So using agents to be part of this network to translate between different neighborhoods to move signals and tokens between holons. We believe that this can actually happen in a fast way, that the whole network itself is a decentralized collective intelligence. And as such, a real alternative to monolithic and top-down centralized superintelligence. We believe that it will become a superintelligence. And there is a last part, which we just want to tease now. It's an idea we had for quite a while to add Eve next to Adam as a representation for that intelligence, using local AI as a local interface. So you also have a chatbot which has this vast network as its backend, but runs sovereign and local on your device. So people are talking about the Internet of Agents that's coming up, and we believe we are actually building the infrastructure that can make this idea really fly. James, do you want to add something?
Just that I have this strong and I think shared amongst Coasys conviction that it's not that we are providing the full solution here, but we're developing a substrate that can unlock the collective intelligence of humanity. We feel that like distributed across the planet right now, we already have the puzzle pieces that are needed to solve the biggest problems that we're facing. But the deep problem underlying a lot of this is that where the infrastructure that we currently have is resisting the integration of those pieces into a coherent whole. So if we can unleash this substrate, it can unlock so much of what humanity's potential is. And it's not something that we can do as a team on our own. It's something that we need to invite all of humanity to participate with us in growing this global brain in a way that it serves everyone holistically.
Yeah, that's right. What we're providing is the spanning layer and the infrastructure that allows all these different solutions as their different social DNA, as their different apps, the different mimetic tribes and communities to do what they want, but to not have to compete with others, but to have a vast generative space of collaboration. Cool. All right. Thanks for listening. I think we are at time.